Someone threw 153 guns into a sacred Maya well in 1848. Nobody touched them until now. Underneath a 500-year-old church. It goes straight down. Cold. Dark. Maybe 20 meters deep. The Maya have a name for it, Sea's Jaw. Well of cold water. For centuries they prayed beside it, lowered buckets into it, believed it was a doorway to the underworld. Then in 1848, in the middle of a war nobody outside Mexico has ever heard of, somebody walked to the edge of that sacred water and started throwing guns in. One. Then another. Then another. 153 rifles and muskets. And one cannon. Still on its wooden carriage. They sank to the bottom. The water closed over them. And for 178 years, nobody touched them. Divers found them in February 2026. Sitting exactly where they landed. Here's the thing that should stop you cold: the guns weren't thrown in by the rebels. They were thrown in by the people who were losing the war. Let me take you back. Mexico won independence from Spain in 1821. Big moment. Flags, speeches, the whole thing. For the Maya people of Yucatan, it meant nothing. New government. Same system. They still worked land that used to be theirs. Still paid taxes on their own religious ceremonies. Still watched their communal territory disappear, one law at a time, handed to landowners who had never once asked them. 300 years of that. Not 3 years. 300. By 1847, they were done. On July 30th, a Maya leader named Cecilio Chi attacked the town of Tepic. Not a riot. Not a protest. The first move of a calculated war, one that would last 54 years and cut the population of the entire region in half. History calls it the Caste War. The Maya had a different word for it. Justice. Now here's the part they leave out of most history books. For the first 2 years, the Maya were winning. Not barely surviving. Winning. They outnumbered the ruling class 3-1 across the peninsula. 5-1 in the east. Town after town fell. Valladolid, the city where this cenote sits, nearly went with them. The governor of Yucatan got so desperate he wrote letters to the United States, to Spain, to anyone, begging them to take the colony back. Just send troops. Just help us. Nobody answered. By 1848, the colonial government controlled almost nothing. A capital city. A few ports. One road. And that's exactly when someone stood at the edge of that sacred well. Picture the moment. You're a soldier in a retreating army. The people your government spent 3 centuries grinding into the ground are closing in. You're standing next to a wagon full of rifles, British ones, Spanish ones, 153 guns, and a cannon still bolted to its carriage. You can't carry all of this while running. You cannot let them have it either. So you do the only thing left. You throw it in. Not because the well is convenient. Because it's deep, and it's fast, and in that moment, destroying your own weapons feels better than watching the people you tried to conquer use them against you. That decision, made in pure panic, by someone whose name we will probably never know, is the only reason this story exists today. And here's where it gets almost too strange to believe. A cenote isn't just a water source to the Maya. It's an entrance to Xibalba, the underworld. Sacred ground. A threshold between the living and the dead. So what actually happened? A colonial army, built to control Maya land, erase Maya culture, tax Maya ceremonies, ran out of road. And in their final desperate moment, they buried their weapons inside the holiest place in Maya cosmology. Underneath a Catholic church they had built on top of Maya sacred land. They didn't choose it for the symbolism. They were out of time and out of options. They probably didn't think about it at all. But history kept the symbolism whether they meant it or not. The water did something no museum could have planned. Cold temperature. No oxygen. Stable limestone chemistry. The cenote acted like a sealed vault. 178 years later, the rifles still have their mechanisms intact. The cannon is still sitting on its original wooden carriage. Untouched. Unrusted. Waiting. An army tried to destroy the evidence of its own collapse. Instead, it built a perfect time capsule. That's the part that actually unsettles me. The act of destruction is what created the preservation. The Maya didn't win the war. Not officially. In 1901, a Mexican general marched into the last Maya stronghold and declared it over. But the Maya didn't vanish. They pulled back into the jungle. Kept their language. Kept their land claims. Kept their ceremonies. Some communities stayed functionally independent for another generation after the war was officially over. 250,000 people dead. Half a region's population. 54 years. And almost nobody outside Mexico knows this happened. Here's where it gets worse. The gun survived the war. Survived the empire collapsing. Survived 178 years underwater. They might not survive the next 10. When INAH's team went down to document the site in February 2026, they didn't just find 19th century weapons. They found illegal staircases. Bill. Sit with the timeline. In 1848, a soldier threw a gun into sacred water to keep it out of enemy hands. Then another. Then 151 more. Then a cannon. They weren't thinking about history. They were thinking about surviving the next hour. The Maya never got those weapons. The army that threw them in never came back. And the war that was supposed to be decided by who had more guns? It dragged on for 53 more years anyway. The weapons just sat there. In the dark. In the cold. Inside what the Maya call the doorway to the underworld, under a church built on land that was never supposed to belong to anyone but them. 178 years later, a diver floated down into that black water with an underwater camera and found exactly what it looks like when an empire tries to erase its own ending. History doesn't usually keep the things people try hardest to hide. This time, it kept everything.